Good news! The bankruptcy attorney on the FTX case says they've recovered over $5 billion. In December 2022, reports said FTX's new leadership could only find over $1 billion. The reason the amount was so little at the time is because FTX didn't even have an accounting department, so unwinding it has become even harder as a result of this poor record keeping. It was so bad, even when the bankruptcy was filed, FTX didn't even know how many employees they had. This is the reason why it's still unclear what the total amount owed to customers should be. FTX indicated it had somewhere between $10 billion to $50 billion in liabilities. Oh, but don't worry, because at the time, Sam Bankman Fried said he was really sorry. The reason we may not be able to recover the full amount is because FTX has already spent billions of dollars that didn't belong to them. They were able to do this because Sam Bankman-Fried instructed Gary Wang, his co-founder, to create a backdoor. This backdoor connected FTX to Alameda Research, the trading firm Sam Bankman-Fried also founded and was run by CEO Caroline Ellison. It was through this backdoor, Alameda Research was able to borrow from FTX customers without their permission. Sam Bankman-Fried then created a line of credit from his FTX crypto exchange to Caroline Ellison and the trading firm Alameda Research that totaled $65 billion. Bankruptcy attorney Adam Landis from Landis, Rath & Cobb said, "We know what Alameda did with the money. It bought planes, houses, through parties, made political donations. It made personal loans to its founders. It sponsored the FTX Arena in Miami, a Formula One team, the League of Legends, Coachella, and many other businesses, events, and personalities. It's for this reason it's extremely unlikely that customers of FTX will ever be made whole. All the money has already been blown." Mary Cilia, the FTX chief financial officer appointed to handle this bankruptcy process, estimated they may be able to complete the work of understanding the total liabilities and recovery plans by April 2023. But Judge John Dorsey of the Delaware Bankruptcy Court set a March 15, 2023 deadline. These bankruptcy attorneys have a lot of work still on their hands to do, especially when there's an estimated 9 million customers to be made whole. The attorneys also have to determine the value of the positions of each of those customers when the bankruptcy was filed. To recover even more money, these attorneys also have to understand what they're going to do about the money that was spent by FTX on marketing. For example, in March 2021, then FTX CEO Sam Bankman Fried signed a 19-year contract with Miami-Dade County, the owners of the Miami Heat basketball stadium. This was a $135 million naming rights deal. In his arrogance, Sam Bankman-Fried even bragged at the time they didn't need the entire 19 years to pay for it. Business was so good at FTX, they could have paid the entire $135 million up front. And yet, the very next day after Sam Bankman-Fried filed for bankruptcy, they were already taking down the sign. The thing is, this sponsorship would have provided Miami-Dade County with $2 million a year. It's reported they've already been paid $20 million of it, so should they return that money? They're already using it. It's been spent or is getting spent on gun violence prevention initiatives. I get the feeling that some of you may be thinking this is a bit of a gray area, because it wasn't Miami-Dade County's fault that the money that they were given came from a fraudulent company and they're already spending it to help the local community. But some of you may be thinking, none of that matters. That money was ill-gotten gains stolen from customers, therefore Miami-Dade County should return it. Okay, what about the celebrities that got paid by FTX? Should they give the money back since FTX stole that money? Or, like Miami-Dade County, it's not their fault? I get the feeling that the decision for celebrities for you may have been easier than it was for Miami-Dade County. Write in the comments what you think. Something that I do find a little bit odd is that this estimated number of 9 million creditors, all the customers that are owed money from FTX, is being kept hidden. But the weird part isn't that it's not being shared publicly, I believe everyone should be entitled to their privacy. No, the weird part is the judge said sharing the list publicly would take away the ability for FTX to sell that customer list and then use that money raised to give it back to the customers they stole from. Wait a minute. So FTX steals money from customers and then is allowed to use that customer information to sell it so that they can use the money raised to give it back to the customers they stole from in the first place? When the crypto company Celsius was undergoing its own bankruptcy proceedings, they released the names, crypto wallet IDs, transaction types and amounts, which services customers used, and the types and quantities of tokens held by customers. This was all done in a 14,500-page court filing back in October 2022. The problem is this data was leaked, and it generated a huge backlash on social media, especially on crypto Twitter. Another way that bankruptcy lawyers are trying to increase the $5 billion they've already clawed back is to terminate any buildings or leases from the offices that FTX owned. As a result, it's now come to light that FTX had an office in Washington, D.C., and it was across the road from the White House. The only reason we know this now is because FTX's legal team is currently trying to get the judge's permission to mutually terminate a 6-year lease it signed for a WeWork office space in DC. I'm not saying it's illegal to have an office in Washington, DC or opposite the White House. It just adds another layer of sliminess about Sam Bankman Fried, Caroline Ellison, and their well-connected parents. We already know they're very well connected with the elites on both sides of the aisle and have donated to the Democratic and Republican Party. Sam Bankman-Fried himself spent a lot of time the past few years lobbying for his own self-interests. It just confirms what we already know, that the criminals involved with FTX are going to lean on their political connections to get out of any real justice. And while bankruptcy lawyers are going to try to increase the $5 billion, it's likely the politicians that were donated to are going to be the last ones to give it all back. It's all very hush-hush. I mean, why would the White House claim the meetings they previously had with Sam Bankman-Fried were about the pandemic? Why do you have to speak to a crypto company about the pandemic? Are you going to try and incentivize people to get vaccinated by offering them an NFT? Anyway, my hope is that the $5 billion that's been clawed back is at least a step forward in the right direction. I'm quietly optimistic that as time goes on, we're going to be getting more good news like this, so I'll keep an eye out on all of them for you. Don't want to miss anything important? Then subscribe for more.